So, moving on with how the medium of film changes how we perceive and how we relate to the world. In section 10, he's considering how this new relationship between the actor and the film and the audience that's created by film opens up the possibility of a new kind of fame, the creation of the movie star. And he describes this as a cult of personality, or he uses the term the spell of personality. But when we talk about a cult of personality, the sort of attachment that we as viewers form to a persona that's famous, a person who we will never see as a real person, we can only see them through the medium. This is a new thing that's facilitated by film. So that's what he's paying attention to in this section. And Benjamin looks at further specifics about the tools of film in sections 11 and 12. So in section 11, he's considering film as a spectacle in comparison, for example, to a spectacle that can be created by amazing paintings, like, imagine the Sistine Chapel ceiling. What painter could ever compare to what's possible with a film because of the movement and because of the editing? And it won't be long after Benjamin writes this essay until people start seeing movies in color. So much more is possible with film than had been possible in painting before. So he's looking at the tools of the filmmaker to be specific about what the tools are that can compare to what a painter can do. And one thing he says is that cutting is the essence of the film's spectacle, the editing that creates an immersive illusion of an unmanipulated reality. He compares the magician and surgeon to the painter and the cameraman, the magician being the painter, the surgeon being the cameraman. In section 12, he says the mechanical reproduction of art changes the reaction of the masses towards art. It creates a mass response because people are watching the film together at the same time. They're going to react to it as a group and they draw off of one another's reactions. So it has the potential to have tremendous impact on its audience. When he thinks about the possibility for innovation in film and people's openness to innovation in film, he says that people are more open to innovation in film than they are in painting because of that mass reaction, because they see other people reacting positively to new things. It encourages them to be open to new things in a way that's different from painting, where we intend to encounter it one on one. So, at the end of section 12, he's connecting film to surrealism, saying people are going to be more open to new things in film than they were in painting. But in 13, he says that generally that film works in ways that are like dream analysis. We can study things closely, slow them down, and notice things that hadn't seemed important. And this is where he gets to the point of introducing the idea of the optical unconscious, the idea that in vision, if we can use these tools of technology to freeze vision or alter vision, we can open up our observation to things that we hadn't noticed otherwise. And as he puts it, the camera introduces us to unconscious optics, as does psychoanalysis to unconscious impulses. So so film, he's arguing, is a medium that can do what surrealism in painting couldn't even achieve. It achieves more because its tools are greater and because people are more open to their innovations. So in section 14, he says that new forms of art, as they lead to new means of perception, lead us to new desires that are fulfilled by even newer forms. So people adapt to the challenges that innovations in film put in front of them, and that opens them up to wanting even more surprise, even more innovation. So he says one of the foremost tasks of art has always been the creation of a demand, which could be fully satisfied only later, and that's even more true for film and more successful in film than, in his view, it was even for Dada art in all its radicalness. So in the 15th section, he's thinking about how people respond to film in particular in a mass sense, and how thinkers about society, people who follow social action and trends, are in his time troubled by mass responses to film. So the way that mass audiences react to film was worrisome to some thinkers, and he wants to introduce ideas of distraction and concentration as different modes of interaction with our visual stimuli, and that refers to film. It also refers to other forms of experience. He wants to sort of get us thinking about that by making a connection to architecture, because when we respond to architecture, it works through concentration and through distraction, in the form of habit. Because when we physically become accustomed to architecture, we're no longer concentrating on it, but the habits that we develop in relation to the architecture that we spend time with, they will influence us. And so paying attention to how people adapt to architecture, he thinks is a useful strategy for looking at how they react to film. So both concentration and distraction influence our habits and our ways of thinking. And that brings us to the conclusion of the epilogue. The big idea with the epilogue is turning his attention from the medium of film and of photography and what they make possible, to what they make possible specifically for the political situation of his time. He found that the new media open up a merging of politics and aesthetics that could be instrumentalized in different ways, and he was seeing them being instrumentalized in terrifying ways with the rise of the Nazis. He uses the term fascism. This is in the second paragraph of the epilogue. He begins that section. It begins that paragraph saying, "All efforts to render politics aesthetic culminate in one thing: war." He's talking from a perspective of somebody who went through World War I, talking to an audience that went through World War I, and he himself is just like getting ready to pack his bags and leave, because he knows that his life is in danger because of the rise of the Nazis. When he talks about fascism, he's not just talking about Italy. He's talking about the Nazis. He's just sort of like being careful in his terminology so that it extends not only to the immediate danger of the Nazis, but to this particular use of power in general. And he speaks of the capacity of a fascist approach to instrumentalize that mass reaction to film, the aesthetics that draw people in. In the second to last paragraph, he says, "Imperialistic war is a rebellion of technology which collects in the form of human material the claims to which society has been denied its natural material." It's turning human beings, the viewers of the audience, into drawing them into its aesthetic, and leading them to participate in something that is bigger than themselves through the influence of that aesthetic. So he says that fa- fascism is rendering politics aesthetic, the aestheticizing of politics, and communism politicizes art. So they're strategizing that use of politics and art, in different ways.